Welcome, everyone, to 1 Million Women Take Control. I'm Kim Scouller, and along with Sharon Lechter, I'm the co-author of How Money Works for Women, Take Control or Lose It. So it was really important to me and Sharon that we help women have a better understanding of how money works with basic financial concepts and with what we call the 7 money milestones. Now, these are the 7 components of a solid financial plan. Some are going to be more important than others, just depending on where you are in your life, in your career, or with your family. But this is kind of a checklist that you want to make sure you've taken into account all of the things from financial education to proper protection, emergency fund, debt management, the cash flow, build wealth, and protect wealth. Now, we tell the story of the 7 money milestones through the lens of 9 characters in the book, 9 different women who are at different stages in their life. You can see on the screen from a 19-year-old all the way to Jan, who at the time we wrote the book was 86 years old. Now, this is the month of July, and we celebrate July 4th, Independence Day. So we're celebrating financial independence with our meeting tonight. And Jan is kind of the character that epitomizes that. Now she's 86. She, raised her family, took care of the household. She also worked, in her husband's office as well as her son's office. She was a great mom, a great wife, a great grandmother, and now a wonderful great grandmother. But among the things that we want all women to understand, especially women who are in Jan's age range, is that 80% of women die single, while 80% of men die married. Jan did not expect that her husband wouldn't be there in her 80s. 42% of women are afraid they're going to run out of money by age 80. And 77% of women say they see money in terms of what it can do for their families. And you'll see that throughout the How Money Works for Women book, but you'll really see that with Jan. Now, in her 86 years, Jan has seen 13 bear markets, 13 bull markets, 12 recessions, 6 periods of high inflation, the Great Recession of '08 and '09, and the longest bull market from '09 to 2020. She's also seen some incremental change when it comes to the wage gap for women. So in 1963, she saw President Kennedy sign the Equal Pay Act. Now, at that time, women earned 60 cents for every dollar earned by a man. 30 years later, in 1990, women are earning 70 cents for every dollar earned by a man. Another 30 years passes. In 2021 and today in 2025, women earn just 82 cents for every dollar earned by a man. And it's Jan's sincere hope that her granddaughters and now her great granddaughters won't need to wait another 30 years to see the equal pay promised in 1963. Now, there is reason for hope. In the last 50 years, Jan's seen women make tremendous strides in school. In 1970, only 8% of women earned college degrees. Today, women earn nearly 60% of all college degrees. So women have really taken their place at the academic table. Now, speaking of tables, here's a picture of me with some very powerful women that was taken at the WealthWave convention in Dallas just a few months ago. The woman sitting next to me is Holly Snyder. Holly is the president of Nationwide Life. Now, across the table from Holly is Michelle Berry. Michelle is the president of Transamerica Financial Advisors. And sitting next to Michelle is Wendy Boyd, who is the chief distribution officer for World Financial Group. Now, we don't stop there. A lot of great women executives in financial services, but you see a lot of incredible women, boots on the ground, who are working shoulder to shoulder across the table, side by side, with so many women. This first picture is a picture of so many incredible women financial professionals in WealthWave. This picture was taken a couple of years ago at our convention in Dallas. And then a few months ago, this picture was taken in Modesto, California. Some women who attended a women's event we held there. And then this last picture, I love staircase pictures. These are some amazing women who attended a women's event in Las Vegas, Nevada. You know, so many women want to learn more about how money works. And so we have these incredible women's events and virtual women's events like we're doing tonight to talk about that. Now, there are a lot of women who came before us who were pioneers for women in financial services. And you can see in this picture a couple of them. Sandy Miller, who leads this amazing team in Louisville, Kentucky. She's built her team, built a successful business for more than 40 years in financial services. And then across the table from her is the amazing Jan Matthews, who was the basis for the character Jan. And you're going to hear a lot more from Sandy and Jan in just a minute, but there was one more picture I wanted to share with everyone. I was in Cincinnati visiting with Jan, and Sandy had come up because I was doing a women's event there, but also doing a TV interview with Fox 19 there in Cincinnati. And you can see this picture of Jan directing the camera people for the TV interview. So not only has Jan been so involved in her finances and in financial services, but she's also now taking on a career in TV. And so with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to Sandy Miller and Jan Matthews. Sandy?
Oh, Kim, thank you so much. It really is. Ladies, it's an incredible honor. This woman has been a fixture in my life for 34 years. And I think you said I was in the business something like 40. Everyone knows out there that knows me real well that I have to follow that with a caveat that I'm only 29. So that's the only fuzzy math we can talk about. But I'm going to go ahead and bring Jan on. Jan, come on right over here. She is not just a cartoon character in that wonderful book. Look at this wonderful lady right here. Jan, we are so honored that you're here because, as Kim had said, ladies, in our How Money Works for Women book, as we go through the generations, Jan is the epitome of financial independence. And with this being Financial Independence Month, right, or just Independence Month, I want to talk about that. So, one of the things that I want to tie in and have you maybe hopefully garner a message from us tonight is in this book, ladies, we talk about what we call the 7 money milestones. And these are anchors. These are things that they don't teach in school. They're the things that can make a difference in your life. It's made a difference in my life. And you'll hear some of the ladies talk tonight about how sometimes just simple principles that weren't taught early and unfortunately learned late made a big difference. And Jan is such an exceptional example of that because, well, first of all, she's had a few generations. And so you've seen a lot of different things. Yeah. Kim, I love the way the book presents and you present, all of the things that you've been through. You've seen markets come and go. And, sometimes when we're young and we see markets fall, we think, oh, I don't want any piece of that. But then, as we get a little bit older and we learn, we know things come back and forth. So I want to just thank you and welcome Jan Matthews. And we're going to talk about some great stories tonight that I hope kind of weave a message out there for you. Jan has just lived an exceptional life. And Jan, one of the things that you and I talked about yesterday is just what does that financial independence term really mean? And is it the same as financial freedom? And you've come to that stage of your life where money is not something that you worry about at night anymore, right? You've lived, I
That's right.
guess, enough. And so if you think about financial independence, what comes to mind?
Well, you just have to accept what you have now. That's the way it is. You can make it better if you so choose, but don't wait for it to come knocking on your door and walk in because that won't happen. You have to make it happen.
That is such an important message
That's
because
yeah.
it's very few, a very minute few people that are born with, as in our generation, well, my generation and your generation, I'm pretty close to yours, is that example of that silver spoon in the mouth, and how few of us are really born with that, right? We all
That's
kind of
true.
learn the hard way. We all make mistakes. And so one of the messages that you and I talked about that I want you to share is how just because you're financially independent, right, doesn't mean you didn't have hard knocks in life. It
Oh,
doesn't mean that you didn't make mistakes and you didn't learn from a lot of those
that's right.
mistakes for sure. So, ladies, I want you to just maybe kind of think in your mind when you hear the term financial independence, what does that mean to you? Because that's really where we're trying to take you. And Candy and Yana and some of you that are out there, I know for a fact that independence is different for all of us. One of the things, Jan, that you and I talked about is just over the years you've worked for your sons
Hmm.
and your husband, and you've been around the financial business. And we talked about that, is financial independence being rich?
No.
And what does being rich even mean, right? Like, is that a different number for everybody or what? I think it is because some people would
Right.
immediately say $1 million.
Hmm.
And some people are going to say $10 million or $100 million or whatever. Rich is different for all of us. But Jan, you have a story which I appreciate you being willing to share, and that is where you started in your life. And you talked about with your brother and your mom,
Hmm.
and some of those early lessons. Share with us just a little of that story of just your start in life.
Well, there were the three of us, just my mom, my brother, and I, and we called ourselves the Three Musketeers. And we struggled. My mom was a single mom that worked every day. We didn't have a dad or anything, and we just made the best with what we had. And we didn't have very much, but would just be happy with what you have and just strive to have more. But just remember to have that more, you have to work for it. It's not going to just come and fall in your lap. And
Right.
if you work for it, you can accomplish anything your little heart desires.
Yeah. And I think working for it too is having a guideline because it's not
Hmm.
just a finger cross.
Yes.
I saw we call it a meme, Jen. We used to call it cartoons. But, I saw this on social media. This little girl, she was maybe 5 or 6 years old, and she was laying on her tummy. And what I loved and caught my attention on this picture is she's holding a cup of coffee, what I think is a cup of coffee, and she's daydreaming. And I absolutely love what the caption says. It says, I really had my heart set on waking up rich this morning. And haven't we all, ladies,
Oh,
been in that
yes.
position where we're like, yeah, I'm daydreaming, right? And there is nothing wrong with daydreaming because that kind of tells us what we want, right? What we're looking
Yes.
for. And wouldn't
Yes.
that be great? But it's just like you said, at some point, you have to put that cup of coffee
Right.
down and you have to say, okay, I need to buckle up. And so, one of the things that I believe that is important if we kind of don't know where to start is those 7 money milestones for
Yes.
sure. And as we talk about these milestones, I asked Jan this question last night. I'm going to ask it again. Jan, if you look back on your life and you just think of a moment when you accomplished something, maybe you weren't completely financially independent, but you had that first moment where you felt like, I, I really feel free right now. I feel independent, and how you got there. And one of the things you tell me is about when you and your husband, Tom, bought your first home and the little glitch that happened. So share that story because I think that's a brilliant story.
Well, Tom and I always saved our money, and whenever we wanted to purchase something, we saved our money up. When we had the money, we went and purchased it. So we basically had no credit. So when we went to buy our first house, you fill out the application and do everything, and we thought we're the perfect candidates to buy a home. We're not in debt. We don't owe anybody anything. And we got turned down and we couldn't understand, well, why? We don't owe anybody. We're not debt up over our heads. And we found out that because we never charged anything, we had no credit. So they said, go out and buy something and get yourself some credit. So that's what we did.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, we had to go out and buy something, put it on credit, basically, so that we would have credit. And that's the only way we could buy our first home. And here was this guy sitting next to us that owed every Tom, Dick, and Harry. He's in debt up over his eyeballs.
Yeah.
And his credit went right through.
Yeah.
And I thought, that just
Yeah.
didn't register at the time with me. And I thought, that just doesn't make any sense to me. But you don't want to go out and have credit up over your head and then not be able to afford to pay those bills.
Right.
Because, the first thing you have to do is put food on the table for you and your family.
Right. And one of the things that is, as you told me that you had to go out and buy the washer and dryer
Yes.
and develop some credit. And, in our milestones, we talk about some of those things, especially when we're talking about debt and mortgages, is
Mhm.
how important credit is in our lives. And at that time, you thought it doesn't matter because we pay everything cash. So
Mhm.
it's not something that we
We
need.
thought we had perfect credit.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's one of those numbers that we, through our classes and through our books, educate you that it becomes really important.
Yes.
And then life happens, as one of my partners and friends, Chiffon, who's on, she likes to say, life keeps lifing. I love that, right? And you woke up one day and found yourself in a position where Tom had passed away.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I admire and have learned a lot about you is how you got through that is simply because you had a lot of those milestones, like proper
Mhm.
protection, right? Those things were already in place. But talk about that moment where you woke up and you realized, wow, it's just me and
Mhm.
these 4 children.
And you just have to say, well, they depend on you. You don't have a husband anymore. So you just have to pick up the pieces, do the best you can. And they have to pitch in and help you. And I taught my children early that you have to work for what you want. It's not going to just happen. And if you go out and work, I don't care who you are or how you feel or what are your goals. If you put your mind to it, it will work and you will make it and you will be successful.
Well, and I'll just say the story goes on because she had this sign in her house, which cracks me up.
I did.
What did that sign say? So I can just see your children seeing the sign. What did the sign say, Jan?
Well, my 3 boys were on this side of the house, and then my daughter had her room on the other side of the house. But I hung a sign up over my son's door that says, "Your mother does not work here."
They knew.
It
Is
was,
that Cheryl? Yes, exactly. Is that just a fantastic sign? I think every mom should have that sign out there.
and
Yeah,
that's all I was trying to say to them.
yeah,
I am not your maid, and you need to know how to clean up your room and make your bed and keep the things nice and neat and organized. I'm not here. This is not a hotel. It's not a restaurant. This is your home, and we are a family, so we should do everything together as a family.
right.
If there's a garbage can's full, take the garbage out. Don't wait for me to say, take the garbage out.
Yeah.
Just do what needs to be done because it's your home, not a restaurant and not a hotel.
I love that. And I speak for a lot of the moms that I have been clients of mine over the years, especially because in your generation, it wasn't common that the women worked out of the
True.
home. And so a lot of the moms and clients that I've had talk about that guilty feeling of being gone, right, out of the house.
Hmm.
And sometimes women tend to overcompensate. Right. And
Hmm.
so we want to make it easier for our children because we feel like, well, I'm sorry, I haven't been here, and that's not, sometimes not the best lesson. And I love the early lessons that you talked about with chores. But one of the things that I think was foundational that you taught your children, and that I know since I know your children, and they have, I've seen them even pass that on to their children and their grandchildren now, is setting up that bank account, how important that was early on, and share that with the young moms because I think that's a strong message.
Well, the boys, when they were young, of course, they were too young to go out and get a job, but they could do a paper route and they made $5 a week. So I went and I thought, okay, you're fine. You're going to make your $5 a week. Let's go open up a savings account. You keep half for you, and you take half and you put it in that savings account. And then that way, if there's something you want to purchase or something you want to buy, then you'll have the money in the bank to go do that. We'll go draw the money out, you go buy what you want, but you have to split it. You're not going to just take it and just blow it on who
Yeah.
knows what. Well,
Yeah.
you know how kids are.
Yeah.
And that's how we started. And they all had savings accounts and saved up for when they wanted something. And we went to the savings and loan, took the money out, they
love it.
went and purchased it. And then I said, now you can build it back up again.
Right. That is such a key thing early on, right? To be able to teach that lesson. So as we talk about the money milestones, one of those milestones, Jan, is what we call the emergency fund, right? To make sure that you have enough to weather some storms that hit us. And so I'm going to call out to one of my friends and partners, Tiffany Porter, because she was sharing with us what I think is just a great story about, again, we have bumps and we have different things that affect us in life. And when you have some of these milestones and you understand them and you start to put them together, you can afford to take a little more risk, because when we don't have money in an account and something happens, it can crush us and crumble us very fast. But Tiffany, you talked about a risk that you took that I wanted you to share because I think that's important. And it all started because you knew you had built that emergency fund.
Right. So about 7 years ago, make the decision, just like Chiffon says, life was lifing, and I was just ready for a change. So I wouldn't suggest this, but I walked away from a job that I had been on for 18 years. Not only walked away from the job, but decided to, I'm originally from Kentucky, but I was living out in Arizona for those 18 years. And I decided also to leave Arizona. So I was giving up everything. Honestly, I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what was going to happen. I just said, hey, I think this is the time. This is the way that I feel led. So gave up the job, left Arizona and came back to Louisville, Kentucky. And so I was able to do that because I had an emergency fund. Like I felt secure enough. I was like, hey, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm gonna take a leap. And part of that leap was my mom. She's been doing hair and been a salon owner for over 40 years. One of the things she had always talked about is having a boutique with her salon. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna fund it. I'm gonna finance it. So I was able to open up a boutique for my mom. I completely financed that on my own. And then also with me being the only child, it was really special for me to, like, living in Arizona. I would see my mom maybe just twice a year. And being the only child, that was tough. So being able to do something for my mom, to give back to her everything that she had put into me, but also spending 6 months, I was able to not work, do anything for 6 months. And I worked side by side with my mom every day in that boutique. So that was able a time for us to just get reacquainted. She pretty much didn't know me as an adult because I had been gone for so long. So to be able to finance that for her, for me to be able to just readjust, not only, not working for so long, but then also, like I said, just being able to just breathe, to say, okay, what is my next step in life? And the only way I was able to do that was the fact that I had an emergency fund that was there, that I could try to figure out whenever that time was going to be to do something different. So the time with my mom, the ability to be able to, like I said, finance something that she had been wanting to do and give back to her, it was amazing feeling for that period of time.
Yeah, there's just so much freedom, but looking back and knowing you personally, Tiffany, this is one of the things where we learn that when we have a goal or we have something in our mind, sometimes you have to sacrifice. Sometimes you can't be that little girl with a coffee cup saying, I think I want to wake up with an emergency fund that's full tomorrow. It has to be right filled, and sometimes you have to make sacrifices. And I know, Jan, you talk a lot about the times that you just, especially when you were saying we're going to pay cash only, the sacrifices that you make, for buying a car, buying or whatever, right? And do you remember some of those things? Anything that's coming to mind that you're thinking about there? Because I know you shared some with me.
Well, My husband being a CPA, especially during tax season, January 1st to April 15th, we always consider ourselves, um, what's the word you want to use? You know, you don't have any family because your husband's never home. And at that time, the grocery stores were only open 2 nights a week, Tuesday night and Thursday night, no Sundays. We only had one car, so I could never go to get to the grocery store. So I had a neighbor across the street who her daughter would come and stay with my kids, and while they were taking a nap, I would go to the grocery store with her mom because that was the only way I would have time to get to the store during the week during tax season because we called ourselves tax widows. That's the word I wish.
Yeah,
Well, because our husbands were never home.
right,
Now it's different because the stores are open every night, they're open late,
right.
and they're open on Sundays. Well, we never had that when my children were small.
Yeah.
And
And
so
having to find a way because you didn't
you
have
have
that
you
extra
have
car.
to find a
Yeah.
way to you have to find a way to make it work.
Yeah, because I think sometimes we, at least, my experience is you put your head in the sand and you just are like, I don't want to pay attention to the bad stuff that's going around. And so if I need another car, I'm going to just pay that other car. When sometimes if you just pull back and go, what if I did this for 6 more months, right? And
Yes,
just really allow yourself a little bit of time to, instead of calling it a dream, calling it a plan, have a plan. And, Tiffany, you built that up and then you just had that moment of freedom. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I know you were talking a little bit about Chiffon and one of her stories. I don't know if you want to share that over with her, if you had anything else, Tiffany, but um, um, Tiffany, you're on mute, so I don't know if you're finished, but yeah. So thank you for sharing that. I know your mother. I've met your mother. I know it means the world to her. That's the first thing I heard about her. Um, Tiffany, also, one of the things that I want to share with our ladies is willing to take risk in other places, and that's one thing I admire about you, Tiffany. Is she wanted to learn how money works, and so rather than just like grab a book or watch a video, you met a woman that gave you an opportunity to open a chapter of the Black Women Invest for all of Kentucky, and you became the president of that. And I loved that when you met Chiffon, and maybe you can share that story, you realized, wow, well, maybe I don't know about being the president, but there's some things that I can learn here. Share that, and then let Chiffon share her story.
Yeah, it's so amazing how women, how we come together. Sometimes you just kind of put a post out there. What happened was I was the chapter president for Black Women Invest. And so I had just kind of put a post out there. I was like, hey, I'm looking for a woman financial educator to come in and, talk to the ladies. And so Chiffon answered that call. I had never met Chiffon. I didn't know anything about her. Literally, when she showed up, it was the first time we had met. But it really turned out to be something special because while I was asking her to be a part of our group or just speak to our group, she ended up recruiting me. And so that's how now I'm part of her team. But it was just really special because Black Women Invest, though we talk about stocks and different things like that, but really the 7 money milestones has been one thing that I have grasped onto from the beginning. And then there was really, even she just talked to me a little bit, and as far as she didn't even have to sell me on it because I was like, women need to know this. I said, this is something that I'm arena that I'm already in. I want to teach this to other women. I want to teach this to my family. I want to teach this to the community. So literally right after that, I think I was already signed up. I had my agent code, was ready to take the test, and I've been hit the ground running ever since. So I love being a part of this group, and just this group of women, just empowering each other and also just spreading the word to whoever we can. So
Fantastic. So, Chiffon, you meet Tiffany and you're teaching her about education and the 7 money milestones. And I had shared with Jan, just kind of one of the things that you said that kind of changed things for you. So, share that story with us. It's really valuable.
Absolutely. I'll never forget that meeting with you, Tiffany, because I was answering that ad not knowing. I told Sandy, I said, I'm joining a group of women who are talking about investing. I have no clue about investing, but I'm going in with my How Money Works books, and I'm going to hope that they don't know the foundation of how money works, and I'm going to teach them something. And you best believe that's exactly what happened. But to circle back to the question of how I felt financially independent, which two times in my life I felt that. The first time is when I had no clue, but I felt it. I'm very goal oriented for sure. So growing up, I had to get these goals accomplished, which was getting my husband, got him, children. I only wanted two. I wanted a boy and a girl, but I got two boys. I was finished. I got my house, the White House with the picket fence, and a dog. Did all that. Dream car. I got my car and the career that I wanted. I loved healthcare, and I partnered up with a few women running my own company, and I absolutely loved it. Did I know about financial literacy? No, but I was living the life. I put my boys through college. I was traveling all over the place, out of the country, 2 or 3 times out of the year. And then I lost that partnership in that company. And that's when I realized that I didn't have the financial literacy, but I was still okay. I felt like I could take some time off. I did save up for 2 or 3 months, not that big of a deal. I was great at what I did, so I knew I would go out there and find another position just like that. Not a big deal whatsoever. But then COVID happened. And then COVID shut the world down. And
Yeah.
COVID shut down the rest of my emergency fund because I only had a few months, and that was it. So I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, and instead of grabbing that shovel, digging my hole and jumping in it and cover myself up, I had a great support team. In addition to my husband, my brother introduced me to you, Sandy. I'm so grateful for that because you introduced me to this company, to WealthWave, to how money works. And when I learned about how money works and those 7 money milestones, then I looked back at myself and I was just like, oh my gosh, I was still on the cycle that I thought I was breaking. I was leading my family to where I thought we all needed to be, but I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a plan. So I was still on that cycle. I just didn't see it. My cycle was bedazzled. It was the best cycle ever until I took COVID hit and I ran out of those funds. But when I met you and I learned, to me, getting that education about how money works was when I felt financially independent. Not free. There's two different ways. I'm not financially free just yet, but I did feel the independence because I knew how to set new goals. I knew how to reach those goals. And I know now to educate my family, which is all I want to do, educate my family and the community on what we teach and empower people with this great information. So the first time, trial by error. The second time, I'm on the right path to that financial road for sure, Sandy.
Well, and Chiffon, when we learn these money milestones, we think, wow, those are so simple. Why didn't somebody teach those to me early? And it's really a shame that our school systems have let us down and not
Yeah,
shared. That's what's so important. And what I love about what we do is that we pay it forward because once we learn it for ourselves, we're so excited we want to share it, right? And Jan, I know you know the importance of those milestones because in your lifetime, that's really what you've done is you've mastered each one of those steps and
One step at a time.
one step at
that's
a
right.
exactly. Nothing happens overnight, no silver spoon. But one of the things that you and I have spent a lot of time talking about is the importance of having proper protection and taking that step early with your husband, Tom, and having the life insurance because what a significant difference it made in your life. Talk about that when Tom passed away, that life insurance changed everything in terms of how you knew you could take care of those children, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you just do what you have to do and you make the best with what you have. And don't, well, everybody would love to be a millionaire. Let's face it. Let's be honest. You're human. Why would you not want to be a millionaire? But it's not meant for everyone. So just accept what you have, take care of what you have, and live your life to the best that you can do at the time. And try to achieve and try to make it better and better and better as time goes on. And you can do that. If especially as women, Anything we put our minds to, if we're bound and determined we want to do it, we're going to do it, come, excuse the expression, hell or high water.
Yeah.
And we can do it. But the thing of it is, though, you have to say, I'm going to do this, and then do it.
Right.
And don't let anything stop you. And that's really what you want to instill in your children also,
Yeah.
that the sky is the limit.
Yeah. And sometimes you struggle and it's like, I don't know, paying this premium.
Oh,
But those are the things that
that's
prevent
hard.
you from having the GoFundMe later in life, right? There's another one of my partners that I want to bring on, Beverly Bowens. And Beverly, if you can share your video and you're on mute. Beverly has a very similar story to yours.
Mhm.
I got goosebumps when I heard your story because I thought immediately of Beverly. So Beverly, as we start to get towards the end, share your story because you and Jan just walked a very similar path.
Thank you, Sandy, for the opportunity. Yes, kind of for me, getting to that financial independence, it started with poverty. So I went from poverty to purpose to financial independence. I grew up the youngest of 9 kids, born into deep poverty, but surrounded by so much love. We didn't have much, honestly, but we barely had enough to make ends meet. But we had each other, and that mattered. We were a very close-knit family, raised by a village of strong, faithful people who looked out for each other. But when I was just 10 years old, I lost my mom. And by 17, I lost my dad too. Then suddenly everything I knew felt like it was slipping away from me. But through all of that, I had one constant. That was my grandmother. She lived to be 106 years old
Oh, bless
and
her
was the
heart.
strongest, most grounded woman I've ever known. She was my safe place. She was my rock. I'll never forget the day I found out I had been accepted to Berea College. I should have been excited, but instead I cried. I didn't want to leave my village, my family, or my grandmother. And in her sweet, calm voice, she said something I still hear today. Baby, you have to go. Well, at that time, I didn't really understand, but now I see that moment changed everything. It was the beginning of my journey from just surviving to living with purpose. Berea College, a liberal arts school for families with low income, gave me something I never knew I needed, a chance to learn, to grow, to ask those big questions that had always been in the back of my mind. Why do some people stay stuck in poverty while others move forward?
Yeah.
What makes that difference? And the more I observe, the more I realize poverty has even levels of poverty. Even among students who all came from low-income families, some had more access, more support, more options. I started to understand it wasn't just about money. It was about education, exposure, and access to the right tools. Back home, we didn't talk about wealth. We talked about getting by. No one talked to us about money or how money works or how to protect it, grow it, or even pass it on. We just worked hard and hoped it was enough. That realization lit something in me. I went on to earn a master's degree in family studies, concentration on family resource management. I wanted to help families like mine, families doing their best, but without the information to really get ahead. And so then everything came full circle when I discovered financial literacy and the 7 money milestones. Once I became financial literate, this education helped me and it changed my life forever. And it's helping countless of others as well. Now I can honestly say I'm financially independent, not financially free yet, but more than that, I'm walking in my purpose. And if you ever wonder whether it's possible to come from nothing and still build a life of impact and independence, I'm here to tell you it is. I'm living proof. And the second phase of my life that I want to kind of share a little bit about the financial independence also, you go through all kind of journeys in our lives. And as we think about this, what I'm going to share, which take about a minute or less, ladies and gentlemen, I know there's some guys out, we can't wait. We must be prepared. Life doesn't always give us a warning. Sometimes it hands us a heartbreak, hard decisions, or even losses without notice. That's why, as women, especially, we must be financially prepared, not just for today, but for whatever tomorrow may bring. Whether you've experienced a failed relationship or walking through even widowhood or facing unexpected life changes, you deserve to be financially independent. And here's the truth. We can't afford to wait until the crisis comes. We must start early. We must start now. Start asking those hard questions and start having those tough conversations with your family and loved ones. And start putting the right tools in place to protect your peace, your family, and your future. You have to start it now. I know this personally. I've been widowed twice. And as painful and as life-altering as it has been and still is, I'm able to carry on, not just because of love, but because both of my husbands had prepared well. They had life insurance protection, investment, and things like that, and a plan that made it possible for me to still grieve without falling apart financially. That has meant so much in both situations. So the sorrow is still real, but so is the blessing of being able to maintain and enjoy the life that we built together. So that's what I want for every woman here, to live with confidence, to know that if life shifts, which it does, you won't have to start from scratch. You want to make sure you're prepared. I want you to be able to say, I'm covered, I'm strong, and I'm ready. So no matter what stage you're in, single, married, divorced, widowed, lost children, somewhere in between, it's time even to prepare, because financial independence it's not just about money, it's about freedom, it's about dignity, and it's about peace. You are worthy of all three. And I'm so blessed to be able to share, because oftentimes we don't share the things that are most important. So thank you again, Sandy, for this opportunity, and Kim.
Wow, Beverly, that was so powerful. Whew, yeah, I've got goosebumps. Thank you for sharing that important story. I know that comes from your heart and from your soul, and we feel that for sure. And, the more have learned over the years about this term financial independence, what I really know is it's a mindset. A lot of times in the classes, we talk about having so much money set aside that it spits off the interest, and all of that is true. You got to replace your income in the future if you want to stop that job. But it's more than that. The bigger thing is that it is a mindset. And that is why I've got clients. Jan, I was telling you about one of my clients. She started making about 25 grand a year. When I met her, I thought she was wealthy because she's a woman that had paid for her home in 7 years. She owned her car. I mean, everything's very similar to you that she had done. She paid cash for. And when she first, said, I want to start an investment account. I want to come to you and learn. And I couldn't believe how well she had done on such a small amount of money. And at the same time, I have a client who is a young doctor who had been in medical school, and all that time student loans build up, all those things. But by the way, when you're in medical school, they don't teach you about money. And so now he's in a position where he's making $600,000 a year. That was his income last year. And I'm going to tell you, this man is broke. He lives that lifestyle. Jan, didn't we talk about this?
Yes.
He's got the Mercedes, he's got he's got the debt, he's got all of the things that he feels like he learned, and his peer group is showing him, which is, I'm a doctor, I need to have all of these things. But when you go inside the big home in the big subdivision, it's built with fold up furniture, because eventually what happens is it doesn't matter how much you make, debt will take you down.
Yes.
And so it's that mindset of, I need to prepare, I need to plan, I need to sacrifice. And one of the things that you said while Beverly was talking was, I know what poor is. Just share with us some of those thoughts that you had while Beverly was sharing her story.
Well, Beverly, I want to tell you I'm very, very proud of you for doing what you did, because I know what it is to be in poverty. At one time when I was in the 7th grade, there was my mom and I and my brother, our three musketeers. We lived in one room. That's all we had, was one room. It was everything. It was the kitchen. It was the bedroom. It was the living room. We had a radio. We had no TV or anything like that. We didn't even have a bathroom. We had a toilet, but no shower or tub or anything like that. And we did the best we could do with what we had at the time. So I know what poverty is. And to go from there to where I am today, I'm very, very proud of you because I know what you went through because I went through the same thing.
Yeah.
God bless you.
And I think that's a
Yeah.
testimony that you don't give up just
Yep.
because you are down and out, right?
Exactly.
How many of us have had the highs and
Mhm.
lows? Chiffon, you spoke about this. I thought I was right. I thought my life was on
Mhm.
track. Everything was great. And then boom, 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 these things happen in a cycle. And I so often, unfortunately, some women find themselves in that fetal position, right? In
Mhm.
the bedroom
Yes.
thinking, I can't cope. I don't know that my life will ever get better. And you guys, that's one of the things that we want to share and maybe reach out and hold your hand if you or someone that you know is in a position like that, because that's just today. And there's always tomorrow, and it's always one step at a time, isn't it? And that's what the
That's-
7 money milestones really teach us for sure.
You can do it. If you put your mind to it, there's no stopping you, no matter what.
Yeah. I'm just, wow, you guys, I'm loving this whole session. I can't hush.
It
So
makes you want to cry, really.
I don't know that we meant to go quite to that where, but it is about proving yourself to yourself.
do it.
Yeah, not doing it for others, but doing it for yourself. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
You know, sometimes too, you guys, it's being in a position because I've had people go, well, this is my job and this is all I make and this is what, right?
Mhm.
But sometimes you have to just say, well, that's your job today.
Right.
What if you find other resources that can bring in other
Exactly.
dollars tomorrow? You know, sometimes you can straddle that job today and find other things, whether it's another job or we live in the United States of America, y'all. I'm sorry, I'm going July 4th independence here. This is the greatest country in the world. There is so much opportunity.
Yes.
So we never need to allow ourselves to feel stuck. You know, sometimes we tend to feel like I'm stuck. I can't get out of here. Find a passion. One of the things I know that you did just out of love is working with your sons in the financial services business, right?
Mhm.
Just helping them and being their assistant and guide and not only teaching them, but just being there in the background to help support their businesses. And what a great career that has been for you and your sons, right? That turned out pretty good, didn't it,
Yes,
Jen?
yes, it did.
Yeah, it really
I have
did.
to admit, I'm very proud of my children.
Yes.
They have all accomplished. They're doing very, very well, and it's all because of hard work.
Yeah, yeah. Hard work, and you taught them that from the very early stages, and not, again, not being that little girl that just dreams all the time, but actually
right.
finally says, okay, I've got to put a plan to this thing for sure. Um, wow, you guys, I'm gonna let Chiffon and Tiffany and Beverly and Kim, if you want to just open the mic, and maybe we have a few minutes left. If some of you have some questions or thoughts with Jan, this is a great opportunity.
So, Jan, so one of the things that I've explained to people is that of the 9 characters in the book, 2 of the characters are based on real live clients of mine, Jan being one of them, who it is just my honor to work with every day. But among the many things, Jan, that I've been so impressed with is that you've been involved in your family's financial planning and family's financial decision making from the beginning. And so if you could maybe talk a little bit more about that, because so many women get so busy taking care of the kids or the house or their careers that they just, put that off. They don't do the planning or they let their partner take over the financial decision making.
Well, you have to teach your children that you have to put some of what you make and put it aside for that rainy day. And they don't like to do that because, well, they want to buy the world basically because children think money grows on trees in the backyard. We all know that, right?
Yeah.
But you have to teach them that money doesn't grow on the trees in the backyard. You have to work for what you have. And you have to teach them that when they're young, that if you work and you work hard, no matter what you want, that goal is there. And Tom is a perfect example of that. He really, truly.
Well, you have set such a great example for all of your children. And you continue to set that example for your grandchildren and great grandchildren. So if I've got a lot of clients who want to create legacies for, future generations. If you could kind of talk about your thinking on that.
Well, you try to teach your grandchildren that, life is not a bowl of cherries, as they say, okay? And you'll have hard knocks, but you'll have nice things, and then you'll have some really tough times. But just learn how to cope with that. Put each thing in perspective, put each thing in its place, and say, okay, this is bad, but I can fix this. Oh, this is good, but I could make it better. And, teach them to do that. And that is what will make them be successful. And then when they grow up and they're gone and they're not home anymore, and you can't tell them what to do or what not to do, that they know what to do and what not to do. And that would really help because you have to teach them to be independent. Mom's not always going to be there to pick up the pieces. You have to learn how to pick up your own pieces when they fall. And we all have that. Everyone does. That,
Exactly.
that is
Well,
what,
and another really good thing you do is you set money aside for your grandchildren.
oh, yes, I did. And
Yes.
when they got old enough, we went and opened up a savings account. I haven't opened up a savings account. And I thought when they get older, they can either use it for school, for college, or for whatever. The only thing I did differently is instead of open up a 529 plan, I did an UTMA. Well, because college isn't for everyone, and we all know that. But so I thought, well, okay, with this UTMA, if they need it for college and for school or whatever, they have it, but it doesn't have to be used for education like a 529 plan. So this way, like when Lauren got married, what was left in that fund, I just took it out and said, okay, I gave her the check, here it is. Now, this will help you to get started in your marriage. Like, if you need furniture or, you can use it for whatever you need the most. And this way, and it just, to me, it was helpful to them because they could use it for something else. Like, say, maybe they wanted to get a car so they could go back and forth to school,
Right.
things like that. And this is why I did that and it to teach them. And they just thought that that was just absolutely fantastic.
Now, some of you may be asking yourself, what's an UTMA? What's a
Oh,
529 plan? Oh my gosh, there are some lessons I need to learn.
well, and that was the
And
same thing as the
Matthews.
529 plan. It doesn't have to be used on education. That was the only difference between the UTMA and a 529. 529 plans have to be used on education, no matter who uses it. Where an UTMA did not, if it's not in, but I don't even know if they even have UTMAs today or not. I mean, I'm going way back. Okay.
I need to get you a securities license. Will you take
Right.
that?
There are, I mean, just
Yeah, that was beautiful.
see, she's been participating in the family's financial decision making all along, through her children, her grandchildren, and now her great grandchildren. Now we're coming to the end of the hour, so I did want to check in with Tiffany, Chiffon, and Beverly to see if you all have any just last words before we close out for the night.
I think the only thing I have to say is there's a difference between getting this education and not doing anything with it versus getting this education and taking that step forward. You have to take the step forward when you get the knowledge. Um,
You have to use it.
there's nowhere to go without it. Otherwise, you're jumping back on that cycle.
Totally,
Yes, yes.
totally.
And the only-
Tiffany?
They
Yeah,
always say
and-
use it or lose it.
Yeah.
And I just want to say thank you for, I mean, like I said, in life, you come across people, and this has been just amazing to come across WealthWave and how money works, and to be a part of a group of women that we can learn together, grow together, and then spread the word. I'm all about the community and getting the word out there. So this has been an awesome experience to be a part of all of you ladies tonight.
Wonderful. And Beverly?
Yes, and the only thing I would add is the beautiful side of what we do. We bring no judgment against any person, whether you have little, none, or a lot. You still are important to any of our agents, anybody that will reach out to you. because we have no judgment. And I'm so glad to be a part of an environment like that. So it makes my job and what I do easy because I can talk to anyone at any location, at the Goodwill, anywhere, because you never know whose life you will change. So that's my last add-on to that.
Beautiful. And then Sandy and Jan, what are your last words for our audience tonight?
We'll leave Jan for last, and I will just say, ladies, Kim talked about this book. If you do not have a copy of this book, reach out to the person that invited you. We want you to have a copy of this book. It's something that we will give you free of charge. And we are here to just be coaches. We just want to hold your hand and help you and guide you and teach you those 7 money milestones. And let me just say, before I turn it over to Jan, since we've talked so much about the business, we are always looking for people who can learn these lessons and pay it forward and learn. And so if you know someone that you think might want to become a financial educator and learn, give us a call on that too. That was just an extra bonus. Jan, thank you so much. Share with us final.
I think something that a lot of people are afraid to do is have faith in your financial advisor and have a financial advisor. They have the recourse to everything that is out there where you don't. I mean, everybody thinks that they can do their own research and they can do their own investing, but you really don't know it all. And the best thing you can do is get yourself a financial advisor and take their advice. They know and we do not know. So,
Wow.
honestly,
I think I want Jan as my financial advisor. So I just really appreciate all of you being with us tonight. And I just wanted to close out with just talking about what are your next steps after hearing us talk for about an hour. Certainly we can't provide a lot of financial education in an hour, but as Sandy mentioned, we want to make sure you get a copy of the book if you don't already have it. So please reach out to the person who invited you, or you can always reach out to me at kim@wealthwave.com. But among the things we talk about in the book, things that we can do to help level the playing field is talk about money with your family and friends. Know your own financial situation. Eliminate anything that is unnecessary. And then set your financial goals over the short term, medium term, and long term. Then come up with a plan to accomplish those goals and save and invest more money, even if it's a little bit every day, because it adds up over time. Continue your journey to learn how money works. Start with a book, because it's just a really great starting point. And then partner with a financial professional, as Jan mentioned. We are here, and you saw the photographs. We are an army of women wanting to help other women learn how money works and make the right choices for you and your family. And then, as Sandy mentioned, share your knowledge. Think about, well, maybe you could become a financial educator. That might, what we've talked about. And when you read the book, you'll see that it's not rocket science. It's something that we can all learn and we all need to learn. And so I encourage everyone to consider, becoming a financial educator yourself. And I'm going to close with this question. What lifestyle do you want to create for yourself? And are the things you're doing in your life today in pursuit of that? Now, for me, I'm at a point in my life when all my friends are retiring, all my classmates are retiring. It's what they talk about. They're downsizing. But I chose this time in my life to upsize. So a couple of years ago, I bought a bigger house and I moved my sister and her now 18-year-old daughter in with me. I moved my son and his beautiful wife in with me. And I moved my now 87-year-old mother in with me and all of their cats. And it's kind of a crazy, messy, sometimes smelly house, but we cook together, we watch movies together, we celebrate the holidays together. And when I'm traveling, I travel quite a bit for the book. My son and my sister take care of our mother. And so we take care of each other together. And it's a really wonderful thing. And I can do that. I can create that lifestyle because of two things. One, I know how money works. And two, I own my own business in financial services. I am a financial educator and I am a financial professional helping others. And so, what lifestyle do you want? It may not be what I've got. You may want to travel the world. You may want to build schools in South America. I mean, you may want to start a charity, whatever it is. You may want to go back to school. Whatever it is you want to do are the things you're doing today in pursuit of that. And we at WealthWave want to help you do that. So I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the evening. Be sure to join our next meeting. It's the third Thursday of every month. And so I think next month, August, is back to school. So we're going to talk about student loans. So be sure and join us in August. Have a great night.
May I say something, Kim?
Sure, Jan.
Thank you very, very much for asking me. I have never ever done Zoom before. I had no idea what Zoom was, but thank you very, very much for having me. It was a pleasure.
It's always great to have you and see you and share you with our audience today. Jan, you are just, I mean, such a
Pro. She's a
such an
pro.
inspiration for so many of us. And ladies, doesn't she look just like the picture in the book? It's uncanny. That Andy Horner
Yes.
got it right on.
He got it right on.
Well, you have to realize, Kim, I had no idea I was in that book.
Well, good night, everyone. Thank you for
Good
joining
night.
us.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.